Well, joining us now is Labor's Deputy Leader, Julia Gillard. Thanks for being there.
Thanks, Tony.
Now, in question time today, Labor again pressed the Prime Minister to tell voters if he was going to stay for a full term. It's taken a while, but you've got your answer.
Yes, we saw the answer tonight on the 7:30 report. Tony, I watched the interview and I saw two very important things. I saw the Prime Minister for the first time ever say to Australian voters that if he's re-elected, he won't stay for his full term. For the first time ever, the Prime Minister said to Australian voters, re-elect me and I will retire. And secondly, I saw a Prime Minister 11 and a half years into his term as Prime Minister with things that he will no doubt remember with pride in that 11 and a half years. The response in East Timor, the response to the Port Arthur massacre, just to name a few. But I saw a man who didn't have plans for this nation's future other than asking to be re-elected so that during that term he can retire.
Don't you think the public's going to find that as a piece of refreshing honesty, though? I mean, they didn't get that sort of honesty from several Labor premiers, for example. They've now gone. John Howard's telling people what he's going to do.
I think when people look at politicians presenting for 3-year terms, they understand that during that 3 years, circumstances can change, family circumstances can change, health circumstances can change, but they want to know what people's intentions are going into the period. And of course, the Prime Minister has said to us tonight and said to the Australian people that his intention, if he is re-elected, is to retire during that term. But more importantly than that, as important as that is, Tony, he also tonight, once again, didn't reveal an agenda for the future of this country. And how can you be the person to grapple with this country's long-term challenges if you aren't in it for the long term? And on the Prime Minister's own admission tonight, he will only be in it for part, not all, of the next term.
Peter Costello also has his answer. Does this look to you like a belated Kirribilli agreement to stop him challenging before the election?
Well, Peter Costello and John Howard have been round this dance floor many times, Tony, and it's hard to follow all of the intricate steps, and I wouldn't pretend to know where the dance is going to necessarily take them to next. What, of course, we know from Peter Costello's admissions in the past, whether they're on the record or off the record, he believes that he would be a better person to lead this country than John Howard, but he's never had the courage to act on that belief.
Are we going to start hearing in Labor's rhetoric from now on the phrase lame duck Prime Minister?
I think what you're going to continue to hear from Labor, and of course we've been arguing this all along, is that this nation has a number of challenges in its future that require fresh thinking, long-term thinking and long-term commitment. Climate change, of course, building prosperity beyond the resources boom, making sure that our kids in particular get the benefits of an education revolution. In my own area, fairness at work, you will continue to hear us putting forward the long-term plans for this nation's future.
You won't be using the phrase lame duck Prime Minister. That was the question I just asked you.
That was your question, Tony, and I'm giving you the answer, and the answer is what you will hear from us is Labor's positive agenda. Presumably, what you will hear from the Prime Minister is more about his plans to retire during the course of the next term.
Of course, what the Prime Minister says is that this is proof of what a strong team of economic managers they are. He and Peter Costello go into this election as a team. During the next term, if they win, Peter Costello will very likely become Prime Minister. 2 for the price of 1.
Well, I don't think anybody could have watched the twists and turns in the Howard-Costello relationship and concluded, 1, they're a team in the sense of happily working together, or 2, that you're getting 2 for the price of 1. If anything, you're getting 2 combatants, people who are more often at each other's throat than anything else. And apart from the problems that causes within the government itself, the problem it causes for the Australian people is it paralyses government. As they spend many long hours in meetings with each other, thrashing out issues about the leadership, they lose all of those hours that could be devoted to addressing the issues that really worry Australian working families. Of course, the interests of those families have been cast aside aside in the interests of pursuing several days of leadership talk.
Very final question, and a brief one if we can. The public would have already factored this in, wouldn't they? That John Howard was certainly going to go. He wasn't going to stick around for the entire term if he actually wins the next election.
I think the public have listened to what the Prime Minister said, and the Prime Minister has always said he was going to serve basically for as long as he thought it was in the interests of the Liberal Party and he had the Liberal Party's support. He's certainly gone out of his way on a number of occasions to make that sound like a commitment for the long term. Tonight is a new revelation. It is him confirming that he is running for re-election, and he's running for re-election in order to retire.
Julia Gillard, I thank you very much for taking the time to come and talk to us tonight.
Thanks, Tony.